Hello, everybody. Welcome to part 2 of episode 53 of the Wireheads podcast, Cyberpunk RED podcast. Now, you might be wondering, well, Diamond, I thought you guys were going to be talking to Winter J this week, and it's just we were supposed to. I was getting all that stuff lined up to talk with Winter J this week, but unfortunately, Winter J could not make it this week. So, if you're watching this here Sunday, leading up to hopefully this next Thursday, go either to Emmerron or iServer and find where we're taking questions for Winter J. Throw it in there. We'll ask Winter J if we have time to ask Winter J. Don't worry, Fish. I got your damn question in there. Putting that on the record. But that being said, you might be wondering, are we having Groundhog Day or something? No, we're not. I know we talked about it last week during Gen Con, but we're talking about it again this week because apparently some people have some very mixed feelings about Night City 2045. So, before we get into all that, what is Night City 2045? Well, I'm going to pull up the post here. And like what we talked about during not Gen Con's posts this year, but last year, where it was announced. Night City 2045, that is the name of the upcoming book for the setting of Night City during the time of the Red. This was announced at Gen Con 2024. I've been trying to keep track of what news I could get about it. It turned into Edgerunner's Guide to Night City for a time, and now it's back to Night City 2045, which, not gonna lie, it sticks pretty good. So, Night City 2045, a setting book that features a bunch of new districts, 450 locations for your setting, and also, on top of that, shows all the different districts and how they're being drawn out. We have all the major districts from the core rulebook, but then it shows how all those major districts break apart into their smaller communities as well. So we have places like Charter Hill, where the line is between Haywood and Santo Domingo. Also, the Reclamation Zone, which becomes the present-day Haywood of the 2070s. And also, how Kabuki is different from Watson. We're going to be seeing all that different stuff. Now, we had gotten some posts about people not being totally thrilled about this. Emmerron and I were talking about it last night, and the way Emmerron put it was actually really good. If you could go back and run it by me again, the way that you had described the people's mixed reviews about why they feel the way they do about this book.
So the biggest thing that I think this sentiment is probably the one I've heard echoed the most strongly here, is that people are afraid that we will get too much detail in a setting guide, like what NC 2045 is purporting itself to be. We will get too much detail, and it will take away what has been described by a lot of people as kind of that fuzzy or kind of the gaps in our knowledge and understanding of the city, and they're afraid that it will invalidate homebrew. And I will say that unless your homebrew heavily relies upon existing locales, I say this as someone who has one that got sort of screwed this way. You will probably be fine, and even in those contexts where there's been something moved around or whatever. We've already seen a little of this with the Atlas. The Atlas kind of gave us a preview of okay, here's all the locales we already have in Night City as of right now, right? With that in mind, we saw some of them get moved around. One of them was Redline, which is a club that historically, if you look in the, I believe it was in the data pack, it would have been tagged down on the far edge of Rancho Coronado, and it is now much further north in the middle of Watson. And I had written it being like, okay, you know, the atmosphere is it's full of nomads, it's full of all these people that have just come off the road. This is the sort of thing you're walking into. The reality is it works fine in pay to win, even in Watson. But it's one of those things where like it makes things weird, the way I wrote it as a result of that. But that is such a hyper specific thing. And I really don't think us having a greater understanding of some of the hot spots in each district, some of the cultural things that are in each district, having like actual art of like what the street is going to look like in each district. I don't think any of that takes away that fuzzy quality at the edges of the picture. It just gives us some more places that if you want to make them a focal point of your campaign or a place that your players are going to go visit, you can go do that. That's my take on it. But yeah, the sentiment I've heard most of all is that people are afraid that having a setting book is going to somehow detract from the quality of the city that they have created over the last, 5 or so years playing Cyberpunk RED. And I don't think that it will. I think that that's an unfounded fear that a lot of people who have that opinion are having right now.
And I like to slap a certain... I cannot seem to find it in the damn book, but I like to slap a certain, header of...
It's at the end of Danger Gal Dossier.
Oh, is it?
Uh-huh. And they are guidelines. Nope.
Yes.
Nope. It's by the
guidelines.
Mook creation rules at the end of Danger Gal Dossier.
Right, there it is.
Yep. Yeah.
If you could open up the sacred text of Danger Gal Dossier to the Mook creation guidelines. And they are guidelines. That's it. That's what this book's going to be. It's a guideline.
Yep.
Don't worry.
And if your Night City doesn't agree with it, that's fine. All of our adventures in Night City collectively are not canon. We don't need to worry about them agreeing with the future tense of Night City or the past tense of Night City. They are ours to shape. That is not a fear that you need to have or worry about. You can tell your players straight away, like, hey guys, in my Night City, the data crash never happened. That's fine. You could do that. You could throw that whole plot thread away if you want to. Like, I like it, but that doesn't mean everyone has to like it, and that's okay. Like, my Night City doesn't have bozos because they're bad, and you are bad for liking them. So first of all, Alan, I believe you're throwing that accusation at me. I am not Nyla. Nyla likes bozos. I largely am impartial. I don't mind bozos. I think they make for great adversaries, and they scare the shit out of your players the first time they see what they're capable of. I love that about the bozos.
I'm still learning how to use bozos.
They're tricky. They're a really tricky gang because they're kind of like the Maelstrom in that they're just really chaotic, but they're chaotic in a way that almost is like physically impossible. Like they do all the clown car shenanigans, but do them earnestly on the street. And that's where it starts getting like, bozos are weird. Bozos are a strange thing.
All I can think of is like a Maki guy Ebby with just a continuous number of seating upgrades, but you don't see them.
Right. Exactly. No, and that's like, I think even in Hilaria 2045, they have the
ice cream trucks. Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly. They roll up and then just like they're pouring out these bozos onto the street, and it's like there's an impossible number of these guys that have holed up inside these trucks as they show up.
It's like 15 bozos per truck, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot.
You can't fit. Like, I've seen ice cream trucks before. You cannot fit 15 people in an ice cream truck.
Right, and that's where it's like
comfortably.
That's where the bozos come in. Yeah, no, the more unsettling the bozo, the better. Exactly. That's why I think like in 2077, Ozab is a great character. Ozab is so much fun because you are never really sure what his game or gig is. He's just there.
Now, I'd also like to throw out there with the fact that we're getting, Night City 2045. For some of us, we like to have a little bit more concrete settings. For me, I prefer to have concrete settings, partially because I am a busy GM.
Yep.
I like having locations that are defined. They are there. I like to add my own locations.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just like, okay, I need a location that would fit this vibe.
Right.
Do we have a spot for that?
Right.
Oh, great, we do. And guess what? It conveniently happens to be in the neighborhood that I need it to be in.
Yeah.
Now you might be wondering, well, what about, canon locations and whatnot, canon events? Like, yeah, Street Stories, Hope Reborn, technically canon events. But the way I look at it, nobody really knows what happened except for the people that were there.
Right. I think it was, I forget if it was, the quote was attributed to Mike Pondsmith, because it wasn't him that told it to me.
Jay Gray once said, every Cyberpunk campaign is as canon as every Cyberpunk campaign is some drunk at the end of the bar rambling about some adventures.
Yep. And that's
you will never get the same story out of this guy twice.
Right. And that's, I think if we all look at our Cyberpunk campaigns, our home campaigns especially, as being like that, like if it wasn't written from Jay or James or Mike, it isn't canon. So while yes, like we have canonical stories that we can play through, obviously we've got the end of 2020 was the fall of Arasaka Tower and the whole Firestorm missions. Yep. Those could have ended any number of different ways, and the literature does not agree on how that ended. Other than that, Arasaka Tower fell. We have no idea what the particulars of that were, though. Like, the lore does not agree on any one interpretation of that. We just have a ton of unreliable narrators all giving their take on it.
And, like, for example, my actual character, Diamond, has played through Street Stories.
Yep.
But then again, nobody really, nobody besides her would be able to account for the fact that she was there, besides the NPCs that were present. Yep. And even then, names can be hazy.
Yep.
So I don't worry too fucking hard about the canon, but I do like to try to hold steady to things, and having a source book, which I've seen other game, like, to understand, I came from Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, where the setting and source books were far and few between, and they were very, very vast, very, very vague, and very, very hard to grasp.
Yep.
So having something like this where I have like all these awesome guidelines of like things that do exist in these areas, awesome. Does that mean, well, all right, Hollow, it's time for you to go bye-bye because there's a new Elfline bar in town? No. The Hollow's going to be sticking around.
Yeah, the Hollow's there. Like, we know the Hollow is there. Sure, it might be, like, wedged between two larger, like, lore-established places, but that doesn't mean there isn't room for it.
It'll probably close in, 3 years after opening or some shit.
Right. Like, there's always... The city is changing. We know the city changes. We know the afterlife in the time of the Red is not where the afterlife by the 2070s is. So, exactly. Like, the city changes all the time. And it could just be that simple, right? One day, a bar closes in one part of the city, and a week or two later, it pops up in a different part of the city. Like, they've rented a new space, they've got a slightly different floor plan, slightly new look, but otherwise it's the same bad channel, same bad content. Like ours. M
has the right answer about NC2445 not being a significant problem in validating people's campaigns, but I very much understand the worry. I've seen that happen in other... Well, the big thing is, don't let it happen.
Yeah.
Like, you can literally look at this and just be like, nah, and just put it on the shelf, put it away.
Yeah, you could say for the remainder of this campaign, the lore doesn't matter. We are going with what we have. Like, I'm about to start Neon Inferno Season 3. Like, in the next month or two here, that is getting started.
Yeah. NorCal military base still does not exist.
NorCal got bombed by a second nuke. There is a crater on the coastline of Little Europe where a giant corporate building used to be. And I'm pushing the timeline forward into the 2060s with the campaign. So, like, I'm accounting for changes that are so non-canonical, it would make your head spin. I've got a timeline that I've had to write for how some things stayed the same and how some things changed. And there are different groups and stuff that are in that now because of the way the players have reshaped the city. So, like, you will have to adjust and go non-canon with it at a point if you want to continue, like, a story and a continuity with itself. It just happens.
This is why I hate people throwing around canon V so much. The story is way too open, and the only things that are canon are specific events in the story. This isn't Knights of the Old Republic with a canon Revan or canon Exile who absolutely made certain decisions at specific points in time.
Right.
So yeah, and like I point to this because, you know, some people are just like, well, what about, you know, XYZ in 2077? And it's like, you know, each playthrough of 2077 is like a Cyberpunk RED campaign. You know, the decisions that you make as V might be different than someone else's decisions as V.
Right.
You know, like for me, like sometimes I play V as a fucking asshole. Yep. I personally don't like playing V as an asshole, but it does tell a very different story.
It does.
And like, you know, some people are like, well, what about David, Rebecca, Lucy? And it's like, well, it is a canon event, but how much does, you know, some gonk who put in too much cyberware really impact your story? That is something that I sometimes look to people with. Is just like, how does, you know, this person who is miles off from you and away from you and yours, how does that impact you and your story and your decisions?
Right. Like, what we're talking about is the difference of something you'd read as a headline on the news and something happening in your backyard. You're going to care far more about the thing happening in your backyard. Even if the thing that happened in the headlines is like 2 or 3 cities next to you. Which is kind of the way Night City feels in my mind most of the time when I'm dealing with it. It's like, if you're coming from a different district of the city that is not the corporate center, which, let's be honest, if you're an edge runner, you're probably not from the corporate center. Or at the very least, you no longer live there. If you were maybe started there, like when you were a kid, you lived there. Your parents were execs at Arasaka or Militech or SoftSys or one of those.
Or you're one of the corporation's edge runners doing wet work for them.
Right, but even then, your base of operations or where you live is probably going to be in any number of the mega buildings around the city or a slum somewhere. And you're practically in a different city. Your Night City looks completely different just from perspective than it does for an exec, right? So, like, by necessity, we take liberties with what that looks like. And I feel like we ultimately will have a lot of that, like, feel when we get NC 2045 as to, like, okay, here are the places that if you are an edge runner, this is why I think the Rocker Boy Index was such a good indication of how Night City 2045 is going to feel, because between it and the Atlas, we now have such a good grasp on how Night City culture begins to shape up in each of the districts, and like the groups that are influencing those areas, and sort of what the attitude is there. We're starting to see like doses of that, right? And getting a fairly comprehensive view, because I can't remember if it was when we were talking with him in an interview or if this was in another sort of conversation, but something that I feel like a lot of GMs, us included, don't always think too hard about is when you are wandering the city, every district of that city has a threat rating. And we don't know what those threat ratings really mean. We have like the really broad strokes that if you're in a red zone, it's a combat zone. Violence is pretty common. We kind of know what those look like because of Pacifica in 2077. And we know that green zones are usually pretty safe. The NCPD is like a phone call away, and they're probably going to respond if something really big starts happening there. And that yellow zones are kind of in the middle of that, right? We don't know, sometimes NCPD will show right away. Sometimes they might be a bit. They probably will come. It's just a question of if they think it's important enough. Gangs are probably around, but they're probably not. You're not living in their war zone. You're largely just living with them as neighbors and dealing with the bullshit that happens with them every so often. But beyond these like very broad stroke generalized kind of ideas, we don't know what that looks like. We have heard that there will be more rules about if you are in a safe zone of the city, because this is the broad stroke stuff that we don't account for all the time. What is considered acceptable socially? Like if I'm out in public wearing armor jack, what does that mean? Like if I'm in a combat zone, that's probably acceptable because like, of course, no one wants to catch a stray and not have armor on. But if you're in a green zone, people are probably going to look at you weird at a minimum. And that's where having some of that clarity, I think is going to actually make the city feel more real for people. Because the GMs that are running right now, and again, I include us in that number where I certainly don't always account for that. And I know there have been plenty of games that I've played under Diamond where we really haven't thought that hard about it. We just kind of accept like, hey, this is what it is, right? And having that rule set to force us to think about it is going to be a good thing. I think that layers the game in a way that even if you just scrub half the locations and say, no, we're not using this, some of those broad strokes things are also a part of the city. And knowing that they're there is important.
Also, on top of that, it's going to be interesting to see if we also... Because I'm going out on a limb here. I am going out on a very far limb. I'm taking the saw with me, and I'm gonna sit on the end of the limb, and I'm gonna start sawing. Okay. All right. That
please go ahead.
I'm going that far out on the limb, and if the branch breaks out from under me, well, it's my fault. Looney Tunes time. Yes, the tree falls, but I don't.
The tree falls.
Anyway, so I go back, and there is this certain DLC from an April Fool's Day back in 2023 that I think about, and it's just like, I wonder if this means we're getting some other game features as well. One of them, there's two of them. One of them is The Happiest Place. Ride the roller coaster at Playland by the Sea and survive. But then, also there's self-improvement. Take or audit a course of at Night City University.
Yep.
Which we don't have anything for those yet.
We have no idea.
And now that just makes me wonder, like, does this mean we're getting, are we going to be getting some more details about how these places might offer services? Do we get, an idea? Do we get some cool new stuff to, maybe nickel and dime our pockets with?
Well, and I think if anyone is curious about what these setting books have looked like in the past, I would, there goes her alarm. I would highly encourage you all to look at the original Night City source book for 2020. It is extremely cheap on DriveThruRPG. I think the PDF is like $8. But it is a good indicator of like, this is the level of fidelity to expect, because there is a lot in there. It's not that it's nothing, right? Like there's a lot of detail. We get like a breakdown of like what the medical district of the city looks like in its totality. which buildings are there, which services they provide, all that sort of stuff. But that is one block. It is a single block that gets all that detail. And all the blocks around it still are fuzzy. We have no idea, but we already knew that existed. We know, for example, that Crisis Medical exists. So if we suddenly know all of the details in the building schematic of Crisis Medical, that doesn't detract from all of the spaces nearby. It just gives us Crisis Medical, which was an established part of the game already. Again, Prepper Jack, there used to be a way to teach people skills back in 2020. This, I will say, this also exists in Witcher. It could be fun to reintroduce the mechanic. I also agree. I think that being able to educate other players on how to use a skill is very, very cool. I think that that's a very neat mechanic, especially if they do that through NC University. That could be a really, really great way to do that.
Oh, your wife has asked a very important question in the group chat.
Noted. I'll shut while you vamp.
So, one of the things that I was also thinking about, like with Night City 2045, like given, yes, it's like, well, why do we need all these locations? It is one of those things of like, this could be a way that they are introducing more, because to be honest, I really thought about this. We only have so much stuff to spend money on right now in Cyberpunk RED. And we don't have like a lot of defined details on specific services either. I'm wondering if Night City 2045, does offer those services sort of like NCU or Playland by the Sea, but like even like, we got a place like, hold on, excuse the terrible French accent. Le Lune Bleu from the Upper Marina, where it costs $500 to eat there. And that's not like on the normal services page, or actually no, I think it is. It's world class. But we don't see a lot of those services. And one of the things that also is in there is pub crawl is another achievement, and it would be nice to have a bar in every single one of the districts that we can actually hit. There is a possibility that we are going to receive more than a bunch of locations through this book. Perhaps there might be even some even better ways to get certain things that you're looking for. Hell, one of my thoughts, one of the things I saw in the Night City Atlas, and it makes me wonder that we're going to see the return of it, because I have it in my setting, and I'm just wondering if we will see it again. Is that we have the Militech offices, which the way they're making it sound like might have the Militech showroom, that you could go to Militech and buy those Militech weapons, probably at a nice little markup because of the corporation, but you could get it. That's just a thought that I was having, is like, are we going to see some services like that, but it's like very limited to very specific locations?
Right. No, and I think because in NC, the 2020 Night City source book, that's pretty much what it was. Like, you had a lot of spaces like that. And there were some that they gave you the full city block of like, okay, if you are looking within a block of, the, let's just say the, sports arena, right? This is what you'll see in the area around it. But even then I don't think they defined every single building. Like, they just kind of left it open where it's like, there's a couple here that if you want to fill in the blanks with your own buildings, please do so. But they gave you the important ones that were nearby, so that that way, because the other thing that gives us is GMs, and I will say that I've always appreciated this, because I like some creativity comes out of doing this on the fly, but man, I hate doing this on the fly, where you're like, oh yeah, you walk into the district and everyone's like, all right, well, what's around? And now you have to be like, shit, I need to come up with 10 unique things that you see on the street right now. And like, it's the first 5 or so are not that hard. It's the last couple that you're always gonna be like, oh, what else is there? And so having some of that done for you on the front end is gonna be way nicer, so that I can say, oh yeah, there is a, you know, Chiang outlet here. There's, you know, this kibble stand by the name of Crunchy Bits. There's a, you know, bodega. There's a small dental clinic called Pearly Whites. And like, you can like just rattle off those, and like half of those are already on a list for you to just give to your players, basically. It takes mental load off the GM, which is always what I will say. That is always a good thing. If you are the kind of GM who has a hard time managing that stack of the mental load, that is so useful to have that ready and available, just fire it off and like not have to worry about it.
I'm trying to think what other specifics that. Oh, there was a couple other things that like I hope for with this as well. One of them that I'm looking at is like we have the random encounter tables in the back of the core rulebook. But it would be really cool to get like even more like each district has like specific random encounters as well. That it's like if you are in this district, sort of like how I have Pacifica Man, where if you are in Pacifica Playground, you are going to encounter that exec who has probably had a little too much fun. They are probably a little too fucking high, and they are about as dangerous as a cyber psycho. Just not quite as beefy as one.
Right. They're like the mini boss version of the cyber psycho.
Yes.
Which is hilarious.
But like I would like to see that. Where each district does have things that are like oddly specific to them. Now that being said, it's just like, well, Diamond, why not just, you know, do it yourself? And it's like, well, there might be some stuff that I just never took into account.
Yeah. No, and I think that's the biggest thing that I'm really excited for is what don't I know that the designers always intended to be there, right? Because ultimately that's what a source book is there to do, is it's giving you a lens through which to see the world like the designers of the game see it, right? It's to give you a fairly comprehensive look at the way that they view the world. And I can tell you from my limited experience world building, there is no fully complete lens where you analyze every building on every street in the entire city and give a fully like resolved view of that. There just isn't. You're never going to do that. Nor would you want to, really, because that takes all the fun of discovery and spontaneity out of the game, which is part of why we play TTRPGs. So that's where I'm like, there will always be that fuzzy quality to any world or any city or anything that you do in a game like this. This is not just a Cyberpunk thing. This is a TTRPGs as a whole thing. They need that fuzzy quality. You're not going to lose it. Now, if it fucks with your world a little bit, because suddenly the game designers decided to somehow bulldoze the site of your favorite club or bar or whatever and replace it with a corporate building, you could just pretend the corporate building isn't there. Or just move the bar next door. And now suddenly, 2 weeks after the book comes out, your party's given the bar chatter, and so you're telling them, yeah, you're this NPC on the other end of the bar. Fuck, I hate that fucking soft cis had installed their new fucking building right next door. The fuck do they think they're doing? Next thing you know, we'll have suits walking in here, ordering their fucking drinks, and they're gonna be treating us like they treat any of their fucking interns. They're gonna think we're all a bunch of coffee boys and girls, and we're just gonna just do what they ask because they got the eds. And it's like, you could present it like a problem, which is, I think, fun, because this is the world side of chaos that again, like we as GMs don't always think to add unless it comes to us in a moment. And now this is just giving us a book that just might give us that fairly organically, where we're like, suddenly you have to explain why the Norse fighting club that opened up in Little Europe suddenly has a corporate neighbor, and how unhappy the denizens of the bar are about this. It could be really fun.
And I suppose something else that needs to be put out there is, like, I like looking at like Night City Atlas. Like, yes, I know Night City Atlas is just a small sampling of what we're probably going to see.
Yeah.
In Night City 2045, it still shows there's so much space.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much space.
Yeah, then some Corpo Karen walks into the bar, breaks a couple arms. Yeah, because she can afford the chrome, unlike the poor gonks in the bar, who are all like penniless. They maybe have like a cyber limb, or maybe have like Ripper in their hand. And that's about all they got. Yeah, no, exactly.
I suppose as I'm now thinking about it as well, we have some clarification to where some of the gangs are.
Yeah.
But like, I wonder if Night City 2045, like yeah, Danger Gal Dossier gave us like some of the bigger gangs and what they're doing, but it's like the way they were hinting in it in Night City Atlas. Night City 2045 might give us a lot more discussion on not just the locations, but the people of these locations as well.
Right.
Because, and I mean, I could also see that there might be another faction book that could be coming down the line as well. But, we have, like, let alone, I want to go to the old combat zone. It presents something interesting to me. So you have Brick Coleman, leader of Edgerunners Inc., who is also the security, which Edgerunners Inc. is also the security provider for the old combat zone.
Right.
They're a group of Edgerunners that are trying to rebuild the old combat zone to bring it back to, being on board with the city. But then there's also the Faded, a group of older Edgerunners who oppose what Edgerunners Inc. is doing, a bunch of jaded old bastards. So now it makes me wonder, like, are we going to get more of a story? Are we going to get plot hooks?
Sure. Why not?
Like, that's something I'm thinking about.
I think the 2020 book did have that too. It's like, here's some hooks for what might happen in the zone that you're looking at.
Also, for the first time ever, we are being introduced to the Thelas Nation as well through the port of Night City. Like, yeah, they're mentioned in passing in previous titles, but this is the first time we've actually gotten the named Thelas Nomad, their leader Calypso, and well, who they are and what they're doing over there. So it's nice to finally start seeing like more of these other groups come in. Actually figure out more of what Militech is actually doing up on the north end of the city.
Nothing good. That's the real answer.
Well, what are you talking about? They provide security to Charter Hill and Pacifica Playground, and they're doing what the NCPD won't do. They definitely don't do anything bad. What are you talking about? They saved us from the evil Arasaka Corporation.
Yeah, right. That's totally what they did.
Yeah,
right?
remember Arasaka set off a nuke in the middle of the city.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely how it went down. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Totally.
But like, there's the possibility we're going to see plot hooks for each region as well, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love the idea of being able to get like plot hooks to right side missions.
Yeah.
But also on top of that, they're also going to be providing like a generous amount of art of like street life as well to just show what each district looks like at street level.
Well, and that's the part
massive.
that I'm like, yeah, that's very exciting because like
massive.
Because it's hard for me to imagine what makes, because like you have a couple of hallmarks we know about, obviously, the like really starkly defined, like, okay, we know the Glen is like the new city center effectively during the time of the Red. And we know the University District is kind of where things are happening. We know Little Europe is where some things are happening. So like it's not hard to imagine that those parts of the city are by and large unchanged from the 20s. And that Watson probably doesn't look all that different from those either. Basically all the green zones. We know the green zones and kind of what they look like. We know what the hot zone looks like. We even probably have some idea of what the combat zones look like. Probably the old combat zone more like most narrowly, because it is like more like Pacifica in the 70s, I would say.
And also there's other pictures like throughout the book that it's just like for example on page 283 I look at this and part of me is just like this is either got to be Westbrook or it's got to be Little China or Upper Marina, but it's got to be like somewhere around the land bridge. Just kind of my guess because of like just seeing where like multiple other languages clash into each other on various signs. Not only on top of that, like we actually get to see a little more of the hot zone. We know the hot zone is this big awful pit of just bad. I don't know. Is that a good description of the hot zone? It's just a big awful pit of bad. Like I don't know how else to describe the hot zone, but like we don't have many pictures of the hot zone.
We do have a couple. The one that I think about most readily is the one out of Tales of the Red Street Stories, where it's like the look at the old N54 tower. So we have that one, and then we get a small glimpse into it in Staying Vigilant, as to like what the kind of culture around the edges of the zone are. And we also get a little bit of a look into it in Hope Reborn. And so that's sort of like, we do get a little bit of a little context, right, for what that zone's supposed to be. I am interested in seeing with a little more fidelity into how populist is it? Like, are there a lot of people that are really slumming it in there? How regularly do things happen there that require edge runners or the NCPD or any organization really to like go in there and deal with things? Like, that's the stuff, the cultural contexts of that zone are what I'm really interested in. The thing I'm looking forward to is the breaking up of the overpacked suburbs and like getting that image of like gray suburbia out of my mind and like divvying that up a little better, because that's kind of where my head goes right now, and I don't like that. I want there to be a little more nuance to my imagining of those districts, because even in the 2070s, that kind of, they all blend together after a certain point, where those edge districts of the city are concerned, like Charter Hill and Norfolk, what would be like New Westbrook right now. Those are kind of like the most realized, I would say, in terms of their own culture and their own identity. But everything south of that, you know, when you get down toward the main highway leading east out of the city and then south of there, it's just kind of gray suburbia. And so I want to know is that also true of the time of the Red, or is there a little bit more distinction there that like I'm just not catching on to. Certainly Rancho Coronado, it seems like that's true, but like that's everything north of there should have a little more texture to it than what I'm imagining in my head at least, right? Everything north of Rancho absolutely should have some texture to it that I'm lacking.
Yes. Also, I'm more just, you know, kind of leaning on the 100 Logos DLC that we got. Because, I mean, a lot of people forget that one happened. I love it. We've got artwork for a lot of the different corporations now, and just seeing, like, where these guys are based out of across the city. But finally, we have an image for MaxTac.
Yeah.
And it sounds like MaxTac is not only, you know, doing capture and killing of cyber psychos, but also bounty hunting during the time of the Red. And I'm just like, what are those costs? What kind of services can MaxTac do for me? Not for you players. I'm sorry, but for me. Because
removal of cyber psychos is already a pretty big order, like, honestly.
But like, that's like, but like, you know, getting to see some of these like groups, these people that, you know, it's just like, we know they're there, but we haven't heard jack or shit of them since the core rulebook.
Right.
Like, I mean, also on top of that, like, you know, we only see the afterlife, I think, once outside the core rulebook.
Yeah,
I
think that's true.
Staying vigilant.
Yeah.
So it's just like we have so many things that we know are there, and finally we're getting more about those locations.
Yeah.
Those people.
Yeah. And I think that all of that is good, so that your GM brain has things to latch onto, especially after seeing kind of how they did biographies for the characters in Hope Reborn when we got the Hope Reborn Plus DLC, where they gave you sort of like attitude taglines for those NPCs. I feel like having some of that for these people that we'll meet in these places, because I fully anticipate that we'll probably get some stat blocks to go with the locations that we're getting here. And I think even if we only get it where it's like, yeah, this character is like nervous, jumpy, like that kind of just description of them, it helps us as GMs, because then we have like stuff to base our role play on. And not just vibes, right? Like, we know Rogue is going to act like an uptight bitch half the time to players, especially when they haven't earned their good graces in her presence. Like that's a thing that we all would know, but now we know maybe a little more specifically, like why are we doing that here? And it might be because she just doesn't respect, you know, newcomers. It might be because she's having a bad day. We know when we meet her in the start of Agents of Desire and Street Stories that she just comes across as being very like you made me wait, you'll stand, and that's final. And it's like she will tell you what you're gonna do, and you're gonna follow it because she's Rogue, and you are a lowly edge runner that is being tested. Good luck.
Also on top of that, Puddle Forge Games. Puddle Forge Games. We're gonna find them. They're gonna be in here. So that's exciting.
That is,
because apparently they are in like the original Night City book.
Yeah, they are.
So
yeah.
So it's just like, heck, we finally have an idea of where to find. Because like I'd seen that adventure series of Mr. K's Helpers, and it's just like, where does one find Mike Puddle Forge? So now we're gonna finally get a location.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Gatspot, thank you so much for the 3 gifted subs, by the way. That was very generous of you. Thank you so much.
Oh, goodness. Q&A time?
Q&A time seems good, yeah. Today
was very much a turnaround at the buzzer, but I think we kind of got it.
Yeah. No, I would say we've done a pretty good job. Chad, if you disagree with us, don't say it to us now, please. We just got our hopes up. If you have questions though, and you would like to have us answer them, please feel free to ask us questions. We will dive in and have that conversation. Let me see. Hold on, I do have a couple in the Inferno, and I need to parse whether these are serious or not because I just saw Gatspot send me some things here. So let's see. Okay. I don't know if I want to dignify that question with a response, I'll be quite honest. That seems like a question I'm unqualified to answer. Is your job something you'd recommend to others? If yes, what type? Oh, I think that's probably for Winter J. So I'll make sure LCC that gets added into our list for Winter J. Because like my job, would I recommend my job to just about anyone? I don't know about that. It's not that easy to do this on the budget that I have, read very little. But it's fun. I'm much more fulfilled having done it. But I will say having the discussion about trying to start a family and stuff while you're making what I'm making is not exactly what I'd recommend. But it's, it be what it be. But yeah, I'll save that for Winter J though, for sure. Let me
see if I have any questions. Because I don't know if I have.
Let me just minimize that.
Do I have any questions here?
Yeah, that was for Winter J. I assumed that was, but I wanted to answer it in the moment anyway.
Fish, I don't know if you're watching the stream live right now, but Fish asks, do you recommend getting your gallbladder taken out?
When it's about to rupture, I would recommend that, but Diamond might have a different take.
Fish, you're lucky I now live miles away from you. I would throw my gallbladder at you.
Oh, they gave it to you to keep? I didn't realize that.
No, I didn't get to keep a pickled gallbladder. I should have asked. Actually, no, I wouldn't be able to take that on the plane.
Probably not. No.
They'd have so many questions. Oh, they'd have so many.
You could have probably shipped it home though. We could have figured out a way to USPS that to
ourselves. TSA just being like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Oh, that's my gallbladder," and they're like,
"It's mine." Separated from me now, as you can see in the pickle jar.
But I recommend, guys, if the upper part of your stomach hurts for more than 1 week, you should probably go to the doctor. Now, do I recommend having your gallbladder taken out? I mean, the annoyance of the dietary restrictions is
Yeah.
The pain of walking around and trying to keep weight off your right side. But other than that, I mean, I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know if I can or cannot recommend having my gallbladder taken out.
If it is medically necessary, I would highly recommend doing it though, because ruptured gallbladder is a great way to get sepsis, and that is not a good way to die.
If anybody else asks me about my gallbladder, anyway.
They're all just happy. That's the secret behind all that, is that they're all happy you're okay.
Yeah, it's just like, stop sending me the stay fully warm. So, okay, so okay, now I gotta ask, what's the deal with the worm, Gatspot? Come on, what's the
you can look in the Wireheads Q&A channel on my server. You'll see.
Okay, all right, okay. Gatspot asked, am I still a crime if I was cloned, but not exactly into a human body, but let's say I had my personality attached to a worm, and the worm had an identical human mech suit? Well, in this case, actually, Gatspot, I will give you a serious answer. So clones, unfortunately, as far as we know, in the cyberpunk universe, cloning is an impossible task right now.
Cloning individual limbs is not. Cloning individual limbs.
I'm talking full functional bodies right now. They can only live, like the longest living clone so far was only able to live for 11 minutes before they died. That being said, it could be that clone didn't have enough brain function. So as long as you don't give away that you're a clone, or you don't do, non-clone, or if you do things that are non-human that, make people start questioning you, you probably could get away with it. However, that being said, I mean, if you get, an exotic sculpt into being a worm and then being put into a clone body, why? You're better off just being a Gemini. Damn, but I fucking love dirt. I mean, in a human way. I mean,
in a deeply human way, you love dirt. Yep, that checks out. This guy's totally human.
All right. Yep. All right. Look, you might be one of those weird kids that just ate dirt as a kid. All right. You just might be one of those weird people that ate dirt as a kid. I don't blame you. I did that too.
Definitely not a sewer mole person at all.
Definitely not a rat. Anyway. Would you prosecute me if I were a what?
When I prosecute
what is going on in the Inferno?
Welcome to Gatspot in a very... There's a reason I love this guy. He and I have been friends for a long time. Like, you haven't met him yet, but you should soon, because God, he doesn't live that far from here.
I still have not met Gatspot, actually. Yeah, no.
You have not.
We'll have to change that.
We will.
The average lifespan of a worm. One sec.
She'll
I don't know that, but I'll find that for you.
It should be easily searchable. Yeah.
Do you know what specific worm you're asking for, Gatspot?
Let's go for standard, like, North American earthworm.
Not the average size, the average lifespan.
God damn it! I tell you, AI's ruining everything.
You got somewhere between 4 to 8. That's what you got. 4 to 8 days, maybe 4 to 8 months, 4 to 8 years, depending on how lucky you are. Now, an inchworm, on the other hand, I like inchworms. Inchworms are great. You got several weeks to months if you were an inchworm.
Yeah, sounds about right. Bugs that size usually don't live very long.
You are never far from a worm.
True.
I'm scaring you. Look, pal, I'm just giving you the answers you asked for.
We're being real. And cloning tech usually doesn't provide for long lifespans either. Most clones die remarkably quickly compared to their natural-born counterparts.
I mean, if you look at the replicants of, Blade Runner, they only live for about 4 years.
Well, they're designed with a lifespan.
Yeah.
That auto-terminates them. I mean, generally, when we have tried to clone things like sheep, those clones don't live very long. They usually live maybe a year or two at most, and then they die. So yeah, there's also that reality. So have fun with that information, as you will.
Yeah. So if we have the possibility of where we could feasibly make a clone that could work, I would be more than happy to have myself cloned, just to see what would happen.
Bold.
Yes.
Your clone would not have a gallbladder. I just want you to realize you're already setting like clone up an organ short.
I thought it would just be born at, well, then again, I can't talk about it because that's a Pantheon. Fuck. Anyway, go watch Pantheon.
Go watch Pantheon. Pantheon's very good cyberpunk media.
Oh, a question. All right. Oh, okay. All right. So, question comes from one of my viewers. How long should prep work for a 4-hour session be if this is part of a campaign? Finally, some legitimate questions around here. I joke. For me, I take about I take somewhere between 1 to 2 hours to do like the actual prep. Partially because of the VTT I use, it's very simple to do drag and drop. But like when we're doing, if you're just getting things together for a mission for the day, about 1 to 2 hours, and then just get all the little bits and pieces pulled together. If you're working on like a pre-made adventure, I would take time to read through that adventure.
Yeah.
To really kind of understand what you're dealing with
But
before you present it in front of your players.
Maybe 30 minutes to an hour to really do that, and maybe give yourself double that if you want to do it like twice. At the very least, that second pass to read over the fine parts that maybe you need to like lock in and make sure you know are like solid. I know there's certain adventures where they've got complications and stuff that come up that aren't in every adventure, that I've needed a little more time than just my usual half hour to hour.
Like the jacket, you could probably sit down, read through it, and then you could probably be good to go. It's very straightforward.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think an adventure that
like I will say this, if it's an adventure from a written thing, like one of the Tales books, I would give it probably somewhere between 30 minutes to 2 hours, just depending on, it depends how quick you read, it depends how quick you comprehend or memorize things. I've got a mind that absorbs stories pretty fast, so for me that's usually enough. If you're not running on a VTT, that's probably all you need. If you are running on a VTT, I would give yourself plus 1 day, just to make sure that you've got everything aligned in there if you're doing it raw. Like if you've never run the adventure before, you absolutely want to have like a day to work out all of the stuff into the VTT. And that might sound like a lot, but I promise you, like once you get started, it's more involved than you think, especially for things like Foundry, where you're like programming everything. If I'm writing an adventure and I'm prepping, or if I'm just running off the seat of my pants, which has happened more than I would care to admit,
we're GMs, we have to be able to know how to do that.
I would say give yourself time, because some of this you should be doing kind of from session 0 anyway. Give yourself time with your character's life paths to think thoroughly about how you want those to be incorporated. And then once you've done that, that'll just depend on how much time you need to like build in hooks and things for the players. I would say a really good resource for this, there are 2 of them, that will help with the framework and therefore cut down your planning time, are either if you have a copy of Cyborg, which if you're into like dark cyberpunk, like pitch black dark cyberpunk, it's a great book. It's like $50 if you buy the physical copy. You buy digital, I think it's 30. But they've got a mission generator in Cyborg that you could, with very little work, kind of cross apply into Cyberpunk. Or you could use the mission generator that Rob Mulligan released in his Listen Up DLC. That gives you some of those hooks that you could just roll a couple dice and like have a framework. Once you have that framework, use the knowledge you gain from your characters like paths and like merge those together. The biggest part of prep work for those kinds of sessions that I typically run into are just kind of thinking ahead about which characters I'm going to add importance to, because you'll definitely find that there are players that for some sessions are going to be more B cast characters, and for others they're going to be more A cast, where like they're very like front of the narrative, And in other cases, they're going to be kind of the second stringer while someone else has the spotlight. And I try to be pretty even-handed about that, but it's not always the easiest thing to do. So I'd give yourself 4 to 6 hours if you're really doing something completely new off the rip. That usually is advisable. That's why when I'm doing stuff on StartPlaying, a lot of the time I'm not running a lot of stuff that I'm writing myself, because it takes a lot of extra time that I generally don't have a ton of. But that's about what I give to it if I'm doing something totally raw off the rip. Like I'm not doing it off of like written material, outside of maybe stop blocks or similar.
But yeah, for me, the reason why I suggest taking a little time to read through the adventures, though, like even before you present them to your players, I find that that's better for me to just kind of like soak in the material before we jump in. But other than that, like prep time doesn't need like, you know, days on end like certain games. But
yeah,
having at least some of the basic stuff put together is handy.
Yeah.
So,
like the things because this is the other thing I think that a lot of people get wrong about prep. And we might even talk about this as like its own topic in the future. But the cliff notes that I would say is make sure you're focusing on the right things. Don't try to predict for every little thing that your players are going to do. If you do that, you will be frustrated when they inevitably find a third option that you didn't think about. The second thing, so the things I would prep, pick an environment, make it interesting. So like a great example of this is if your gig's district, right? So I usually go district, locality, and then what makes that locality interesting. So if the district you're going to have a setting in is the hot zone, for example, because I'm running one of my groups through a very off the rip gig in the hot zone right now. If your gig is in the hot zone, you then go, okay, what part of the hot zone? Well, for me, it's going to be in Arasaka Tower, in the ruined foundation of Arasaka Tower. And then we ask, what makes that interesting? And obviously for me, that's pretty easy because it's Arasaka Tower. But if that wasn't interesting enough, I've also layered on top of that, the buildings around it are surrounded by people that want the players dead. In like a very non-specific, they are like local scavs that just kill passersby and steal their shit. And they're being ambushed right now by them actively. That's where we left our last session off. A couple of them I think are in chat with us tonight, and they get to see how that all resolves tomorrow night. So that'll be real fun. But so we start with that, right? Locale, what makes it interesting, and then from there we ask, what makes this personal? And for me, it's really easy again because I've been like leading up to this throughout most of the campaign. One of my players' characters has a girlfriend that went missing like 6 months ago, and she's supposedly in the Arasaka ruins in a lab where someone's been holding her hostage. And so they're going there right now to try and rescue her. That is why it's personal. And once you have all of that prepped, you just find the stat blocks that make that work. You figure out what items are there maybe to reward your players, what environmental stuff you have to account for, like falling building debris and stuff like that. And some of the game already has tables like that for you. So you don't even need to do that like yourself. You could just kind of run with the homework that's been done for you already. And if you prep those sorts of things rather than worrying about a hard storyline in your head, just worry about the objective, worry about the locale, worry about why it's personal, and worry about what's coming after them. You do those things, you don't even need a hard storyline. You just need a reason why they're there, and they will do the rest for you. It's beautiful. Every time it works.
Well, with that, do you have any other questions
Let me check,
on your end?
because I don't hear pings from Discord while I'm in streaming mode. No, the Neon Inferno server is quiet on that regard. I just see the disturbing photo of a worm in someone's back.
Oh,
But-
good grief.
But aside from that, no, I don't have any other questions at the moment.
Well, I think with that then, folks, as always, I'm Diamond Dust.
And I'm Emmerron.
And thank you for tuning in. If you want to go catch part 1 of this episode, be sure to click on the link below. It'll take you back to part 1 where we are talking about the solo expansion that's coming out later this summer, early fall time. And also, I suppose as one last note, NC 2045 is planned for either late this year. I would gamble to say it might be the PAX release, or
Yeah.
else it's going to be a Q1 release alongside what sounds like Fossilized Violence as well.
Yeah,
So,
we got some exciting stuff in the future. We're really looking forward to it.
yeah. With that, as always, I'll see you around. Bye-bye now.
Bye, everybody. Goodbye.